So this is a lecture demonstration with the CSS Navigation Bar activity that we're doing in Lesson K of our web design class. So essentially we're looking at page 105, and though I know I can assign you this page and you'll go in there and just type exactly what's on the page, I really need you to understand the why behind what we're doing. So let's go ahead and take a look at 105. We've talked about making lists, but what we're going to do now is talk about how to make them turn from bulleted lists to something more exciting. In our case, this would be a navigation bar. So what we have so far in this document that we started right here is we've got that bulleted list of our links right here. And we want to turn this into something really nice that looks like buttons, but without us having to go out and create buttons like this one here. So that's sort of our goal. Now you can do that very easily using CSS and styles, and so that's what we're going to start with. Now I'm going to break this down into pieces. So don't do anything, just watch at this point to make sure that you understand this process. So the first thing is first, we're going to, on our style page, start styling the unordered list, because that's of course what's giving us that bulleted list. The first item here is that we don't need bullets, and we don't need a bunch of indenting that we normally get with a list. So we start off changing the list style type, which typically is set to disk, to none. That then is going to remove our bullets. So as I do each of these, we're going to kind of take a look and see what the effect is. So once I refresh now, you can see the bullets disappeared, but the list is still scooted over because lists are automatically scooted over. So our next item here is we're going to get rid of those indents. We're going to set our margin and our padding to 0 pixels. So at this point, if we take a look at it, now it's scooted over flush to the edge. Alright, so far so good. Now the next thing that we're going to mess with is to make sure, and you're not going to see this in this example, but there's a thing called overflow, and we set it to hidden. And if we don't do this, there are times where we can end up with scroll bars, and that looks really weird. So we don't want to have scroll bars on our buttons. Okay? And then finally, we're going to give our buttons a border. So again, as always, 3 parts to the border, how thick it's going to be, solid, and then whatever color code that we're going to use, or a color word. And then we're going to give our bullets a background color so that we can see them. Otherwise, they won't look like bullets. Alright, so here's where we're at this point. Alright. So what you should see is there's a big old box here behind this, but it's not working out exactly as we'd like because it's just going all the way across the top. It's not really separating these out to be individual buttons. And we'll take care of that here as we move through it. Okay, so we've taken care of all of those, and it looks like essentially one big button. So instead of dealing with the list, now let's deal with the list items. So we've got our list item. Right now, they go one right after another, and instead of that, we are going to float them so that they go to the left. So let's go ahead and save and refresh here so you can see what this does. Alright, we're getting a little bit better now, so instead of going to different lines, they're floating beside each other. So this one floats left and bumps into that one, this one floats left and bumps into that one, because they're all in a row. However, that's still not quite exactly what we're looking for because they're all kind of touching each other, right? So back to this we go. The next thing that you're going to see listed on the page on 105 is we are going to style the list items when they are hyperlinks. Okay? Now bear in mind, if I had another list on this page, this is going to cause a whole bunch of trouble for that list. So I would probably need to create a class for a different list that has the normal default kinds of stuff on a list, or a class for this one. But in this case, we're not going to worry about it. So the first thing here is display to block. Right now, the list items are going right next to each other. This is going to make them block elements. And because they're block elements, we can give them margins and padding and stuff like that. So initially this doesn't look any different because we haven't given it any of those properties. Okay, we're going to go ahead and give it a color for its hyperlink, and in this case 666. We're going to make it so that the buttons are centered. And now is the padding. So this is essentially what's going to make this look like a button. So these padding numbers could be different. The first button is the first set of letters is top and bottom, and the next set is left and right. Okay, next we're going to put text decoration. And in this case, it's probably going to look kind of weird to have underlines, so we're going to remove the underlines from the hyperlinks. Okay, let's take a look. All right, this is getting to be a little better now. So now we actually do have padding around them, and it looks kind of like 3 separate buttons. They're centered, so they're equidistant from each other. All right, this is looking a lot better. All right, moving to the next one. If you look, now we're looking at the list items hover status. Okay, now we're getting into a little bit deeper than where we've been before here, so hang with me. You'll understand this part, list item and the hover status of the list item. But what you're not going to understand is the next part. I'm adding another colon, a parentheses, and then dot active. Now you'll understand dot active refers to a class. We know classes start with a dot, right? So that's what that's applying to. So what we're saying is this is going to be a hover status if we're not on that page. Okay? Now that makes sense here only after I put this other one in here, which is the list item styling for an active class on a hyperlink. That's what that means. So the A means it's on a hyperlink, and the dot active means it's on a class that's attached to a hyperlink. So if I have an ahref somewhere and class equals hyperlink on it, and it's in a list, then it's going to apply these properties. In this case, color white, background color 4CAF50. Okay, now let's take a look so we can see what's going on. All right, now I haven't applied that class yet, that active class. Haven't used it anywhere on the page. So right now it really can't do anything because there's none on the page. And I didn't point to any of these, so we can't see what's going on. But let's go ahead and go a step further and see where we go next. So, oh, I also missed our little thing here. After this, it's not active. There should have been something happened there just a second ago. Okay, there we go. All right. So now all of these turn gray if it's not the active class. And right now, none of these use the active class. Okay, so that's why none of them are using that other background color and the word color of white. But that's going to change. Okay, so next I'm going to apply the active class. So that means like if I'm on the index page, and there is no button for index, but if I'm on the index page, I don't want the index page button to be gray. I want it to like be a different color so you can tell what page you're on. So this doesn't really work for this page, but let's go ahead and open up a different page. So if I go to the Hootsuite page and I'm on the Hootsuite page, let me open that one. Then if I'm on the Hootsuite page, that's my active page. So I would put class equals active, as you know. That means we're currently on that page. Now that's going to make this page be different. It's going to look different than the other one. So here we go. Watch this. All right, so now we're on the Hootsuite page, so the Hootsuite page gets the color. But these, when you put your mouse over them, are going to get gray. And this one won't change color because we told it not on the active. So don't use the hover if it's got the active class on it. So that's why that one's not doing it. All right, then I would need to kind of repeat this process because all of my pages have a page that they're the active page. So on TweetDeck should be active. So I'm going to open up the TweetDeck page. And on this page, I'm going to make this active. And you see this a lot on websites, especially if you create templates or if you're using templates. And then hashtagify the HT page, we're going to do the same thing. And on the hashtagify page, we want this to be the active button. All right, now let's check it out, and these should all look right. Let me give it a quick refresh. All right, on the hashtagify page, TweetDeck page, Hootsuite page. Isn't that cool? And then you can kind of tell exactly what page you're on by more than just looking up here, but by looking at your buttons. Okay, so that's essentially page 105 and 106 in your book, and this explains to you the concept of turning a list into a set of buttons.